Returning to our top story this evening in the ongoing search for Nancy Guthrie, the Pima County Sheriff's Department says the suspect's clothes may have been purchased from Walmart, but they're not exclusively available at that store.
And right now, Savannah Guthrie has just shared a message filled with hope, as a newly discovered piece of evidence near the site of her mother's disappearance could finally begin to unlock the answers everyone has been waiting for. Meanwhile, Ashley Banfield, host of the Drop Dead Serious podcast, continues to break explosive exclusives on this case like no one else. And just yesterday, she revealed something truly shocking. A leaked FBI interrogation of Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law, and what you're about to see is a man unraveling in real time, each word bringing him closer to exposing the truth he can no longer hide. The footage was never meant to be seen, buried deep inside a sealed federal case file, locked away from the public eye. But somehow, it surfaced, and what it reveals, over 6 relentless hours inside a cold, windowless room, has the power to change everything we thought we knew about this case. It begins at 5:30 a.m., with Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law led in wearing pajamas, still clinging to the belief that he can outplay the situation, performing shock, grief, and confusion so convincingly that, for a moment, even you might question what's real. For nearly 90 minutes, the act holds. Almost. Then, everything shifts. The lead agent reaches for a laptop, presses play, and in less than 4 seconds, the entire illusion collapses. What echoes through the room is his own voice, captured in a 2:47 a.m. phone call, calmly discussing details about the kidnapping that only the person behind it could possibly know. And yet, that recording isn't even the most damning piece of evidence in the room. The footage opens without warning. He's escorted into a stark FBI interrogation room, just an hour after a SWAT team smashed through his front door. Disheveled, eyes swollen, hair unkempt, but already performing, already constructing a version of reality where he's just another confused family member caught in a nightmare. Across from him sits Special Agent Russell Dante, a 23-year veteran from the FBI's Violent Crimes Division, known for one thing above all, dismantling suspects who think they're the smartest person in the room. Sitting beside him is a younger agent, silent for nearly the entire 6-hour interrogation, yet relentlessly observant, his pen never pausing as he records every word, every twitch, every fleeting micro-expression that betrays the truth beneath the surface. Then comes the critical moment. Special Agent Russell Dante calmly delivers the Miranda warnings, and the son-in-law dismisses them without a second thought. No hesitation. No request for time. He declines legal counsel with quiet confidence, the kind that borders on arrogance, convinced he can outplay 2 federal agents and walk out before noon. That split-second choice becomes the beginning of his downfall. His story begins flawlessly, controlled, practiced. I don't understand why I'm here. This is insane. I would never hurt Nancy. She's family. I love her like my own mother. He leans forward, palms pressed against the table, holding steady eye contact, every sentence refined, every movement intentional. This isn't spontaneous. It's rehearsed, prepared for. But no amount of preparation accounted for the man sitting across from him. When asked to recount the night Nancy vanished, his timeline unfolds with almost mechanical precision. Dinner at home with Annie. Card games, Nancy's favorite, a tradition stretching back years. Laughter. Normalcy. Nothing out of place. Around 9:45 p.m., he offers to drive her home. He describes escorting her to the door, waiting until he hears the lock click, leaving only when he's certain she's safe. And then come the details, the kind meant to convince: what she wore, what she ate, the way she smiled while sharing a story about her late husband over dessert. A narrative so detailed, it feels believable. Almost too believable. That final detail matters more than it seems, because it places Nancy Guthrie in a moment of complete trust, laughing at dinner, surrounded by family, unaware that the danger might be sitting right beside her. And now, that same man sits across from Special Agent Russell Dante. For a full 90 minutes, he holds his composure perfectly, no hesitation, no visible nerves, answering every question with calm precision. He even leans into the role, asking investigators about the progress of the case, playing the part of a concerned family member desperate to find Nancy, not the man who may have orchestrated her disappearance. Dante lets him speak, lets him repeat the story, again and again, not to learn, but to give him space. Space to commit. Space to lock himself into a version of events that's about to collapse. Because this was never just a conversation. It was a setup, a slow, deliberate build toward a single moment. As the son-in-law grows more relaxed, even confident, delivering his story for the third time, Dante gives a subtle signal. The younger agent moves in silence, placing a laptop and audio equipment onto the table. No explanation. No warning. And suddenly, everything changes. The warmth disappears from Dante's voice, replaced by something colder, sharper. He leans forward, and with just 7 quiet words, he sets the stage for everything to fall apart. I need you to listen very carefully. At first, the son-in-law reacts with mild curiosity, almost amused, as if he's confident whatever the FBI is about to present won't touch him. That confidence lasts only seconds, because the moment the audio begins, the room fills with something undeniable, his own voice. A traced call from a burner phone to his personal cell at 2:47 a.m., capturing a conversation no innocent man could explain. On that recording, the voice isn't vague or questionable. It's unmistakably his. Familiar. Discussing details about Nancy Guthrie's condition, the collapse of the ransom plan, and what to do next now that everything has spiraled out of control. These aren't guesses. These are specifics, the kind only the person orchestrating it all would know. And then, everything changes. The transformation is instant and irreversible. The color drains from his face in real time, turning a sickly gray. His hands, steady for over an hour, begin to shake uncontrollably, the tremors visible even from across the room. His body pulls back, shrinking into the chair, as if trying to disappear. His eyes flick desperately between Special Agent Russell Dante and the silent partner, searching for a way out that doesn't exist. As the audio stops, silence takes over. 3 seconds. 5. 7. It stretches, heavy and suffocating. Dante lets it linger, lets the weight of the truth settle in, before finally cutting through it with one simple question. That's your voice, isn't it? The denial comes, but it's already broken. That doesn't sound like me. His voice cracks, just slightly, but enough. I don't know what that is. And in that moment, it's clear. He knows. And more importantly, they know too. The camera doesn't miss a thing. Special Agent Russell Dante plays the recording again, but this time, he stops it piece by piece, isolating key lines that expose direct coordination with the kidnapper. Each pause is precise, calculated, and with every second, another layer of the son-in-law's carefully constructed story falls apart. His breathing shifts, shallow, uneven, like someone on the edge of losing control. The composure he held for over an hour is gone. In its place, restless eyes, a tightening throat, the subtle panic of a man realizing the walls are closing in. He scrambles for an explanation. Any explanation. Claims the call was about something else entirely. Business. A personal issue involving his cousin Marcus. Anything to distance himself from what the recording so clearly reveals. Dante doesn't interrupt. He lets the excuse hang there, just long enough for the son-in-law to almost believe it might hold. The younger agent glances over. Dante's jaw tightens, barely noticeable, the only sign of a man who has spent decades facing down liars and killers. Then, without a word, he nods toward a folder on the table. Because the recording, that was only the beginning. What comes next makes it look insignificant. The real damage is in the messages. The second agent sets a thick folder down on the table. The sound alone carries weight. Inside, printed records of every text exchanged between the son-in-law and Marcus, spanning the 3 weeks leading up to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, all the way to the night she was taken. Special Agent Russell Dante doesn't rush. He opens it slowly, then begins reading, line by line, sliding each page across the table so the son-in-law is forced to confront his own words in black and white. Thursday night works best. Her routine is predictable. Disable the doorbell camera first. I'll tell you where. The back door is the weak point. She takes sleeping pills around 10 p.m. Give it an hour. Each sentence lands heavier than the last. Not speculation, not theory, but instructions. Clear. Direct. Impossible to misinterpret. With every page turned, the illusion collapses further. The son-in-law's expression says everything. The slow, crushing realization that nothing was missed, nothing was lost. Every message he sent while planning this has been recovered, preserved, and now read back to him under the cold glare of a federal interrogation room. And the worst part? There's no ambiguity here. No room to twist the meaning. Just his own words, telling the entire story. Those messages don't just hint at a crime, they map it out. They detail Nancy Guthrie's daily routine, the layout of her home, the exact window when she was most vulnerable, even her medication schedule. The same woman who laughed over dinner, who trusted this man completely. Reduced to a checklist in his own words. Special Agent Russell Dante finishes reading and pauses, letting the silence carry the weight. The younger agent has stopped writing now, looking up, his expression caught clearly on camera. Not anger, not shock. Something closer to disbelief at the cold precision behind it all. And then, the excuses begin. The son-in-law claims his phone was hacked, that someone else sent those messages to frame him. Dante doesn't react. Doesn't need to. Because the evidence speaks for itself. Cell tower data places his phone exactly where he was at the time each message was sent. His home, his workplace, even specific restaurants backed by credit card receipts. The timeline aligns perfectly with his daily movements. Too perfectly for coincidence. He pivots again. Blames Marcus. Says the messages were fabricated, somehow spoofed. But that falls apart just as quickly. The same texts exist across multiple sources. Marcus' phone, carrier servers, his own device, even cloud backups, all verified through forensic analysis as authentic and untouched. At this point, there's nowhere left to go. Every explanation collapses under its own weight. And what remains isn't suspicion anymore. It's something far more definitive. 4 separate sources. One identical story. No discrepancies. No gaps. The footage captures the moment it all collapses. The son-in-law slowly sinking into his chair, each failed explanation stripping away what little control he thought he had left. The confident man who walked in is gone. In his place is someone watching his entire life unravel, second by second. And even then, it's still not the worst part. Because what agents recovered from his laptop doesn't just support the case, it redefines it. Despite attempts to erase everything using professional data wiping software just 3 days before his arrest, FBI forensic specialists brought it all back. Every search, every query, every trace he believed was gone, restored in full detail. A Special Agent Russell Dante reads from the forensic report, his tone flat, almost detached, but the impact is immediate. The younger agent's pen, which hadn't stopped moving for hours, finally goes still. Searches on how to kidnap someone without leaving evidence. How to demand ransom through anonymous Bitcoin transactions. How long an elderly person can survive without essential medication. Methods for disposing of a body in remote desert areas. Even comparisons between sentencing for kidnapping versus murder. And then, the one that changes everything. A search made just 72 hours before Nancy Guthrie disappeared, asking whether accomplices receive lighter sentences if the victim dies during captivity. Now, this wasn't just a plan to abduct, it was a plan built around the possibility that Nancy Guthrie might not survive. The recovered searches spanned 3 weeks, evolving from vague curiosity into chilling precision, disabling doorbell cameras, bypassing home security systems, locating accomplices willing to commit crimes for cash. All traced back to the same device, the same one that also contained detailed searches about Nancy's medication schedule and the exact setup of her home. When confronted, the son-in-law claims it was all research for a crime novel. Special Agent Russell Dante shuts that down instantly. No drafts, no notes, no outlines, not a single file suggesting any writing project ever existed. Just searches. At that moment, the strategy shifts. He invokes his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. But it's already too late. 3 hours of recorded contradictions, lies, and unraveling explanations are already captured on camera. The damage isn't just done, it's permanent. And still, the case isn't finished with him. Because what comes next doesn't just explain how this was planned, it reveals why. Agents turn to his finances, and within minutes, a motive begins to take shape. A man drowning, cornered by circumstances so severe, he convinced himself there was only one way out. It only takes 3 key details to complete the picture, and together, they push this case beyond doubt, into something far darker. The motive doesn't emerge all at once. It unfolds in 3 devastating layers. First, total financial collapse. Accounts deep in the negative, credit cards maxed out and months overdue, a mortgage in default with foreclosure looming within 60 days. Over $250,000 in debt, against an income that could barely keep up with basic expenses. A man not just struggling, but drowning. Then comes the second piece. $30,000 in cash withdrawals over 3 weeks, gone. When questioned, his explanations shift constantly. Business expenses, home repairs, then nothing. A blank stare. An admission that he can't remember. $30,000 disappears without a trace, and with it, any credibility he had left. And then, the turning point. Nancy Guthrie's will. As it stood, her multi-million-dollar estate would be split evenly between her 2 daughters. That meant Annie, and by extension, her husband, stood to gain nearly $2 million. Enough to erase every debt, silence every creditor, solve everything overnight. But there was a problem. Nancy had already scheduled an appointment to change that will, a revision that would significantly reduce Annie's share. And that meeting was only days away. Investigators confirmed the son-in-law knew. He had overheard her discussing it at a family dinner. The same dinner where she laughed, unaware that the clock had already started ticking against her. At the same dinner, where Nancy Guthrie trusted him enough to let him drive her home. He wasn't just facing financial ruin, he was watching a $2 million escape vanish in real time, with a deadline fast approaching. The motive was clear. But inside that interrogation room, what came next revealed something even more critical. How everything finally began to break. 4.5 hours in, the footage captures the exact moment the facade collapses. His posture sinks, exhaustion takes over, his hands tremble uncontrollably. The confidence, the rehearsed innocence from earlier, gone. What's left is a man who knows he's out of options. Special Agent Russell Dante sees it instantly, the breaking point, and changes strategy. The pressure disappears. In its place comes something far more calculated. Softer. Controlled. Dangerous. After hours of confrontation, Dante shifts into the role of understanding ally. I've been doing this for 23 years. I've seen people in situations like yours. Things start small and spiral into something you never meant. He leans in, lowering his voice, offering a version of events the suspect might cling to. Maybe you didn't plan all of this. Maybe you just wanted to scare her, get her to rethink the will. Maybe Marcus was supposed to hold her for a day or two, and then let her go. And then a pause. A shift. But right now, Nancy is out there somewhere. His voice tightens. She's 84 years old. She doesn't have her heart medication, no blood pressure pills, just a photo of her grandchildren in her purse. The words land heavily in the room. Nancy Guthrie is no longer an abstract victim. She's real, vulnerable, alone. And in that moment, something finally breaks. The son-in-law's rigid composure cracks. His eyes well up for the first time in 4.5 hours. Then comes it, the first real admission. Quiet, almost hesitant, but undeniable. I knew Marcus was struggling. I gave him some money. How much? Maybe 20,000. And just like that, everything shifts. Because moments earlier, he claimed he couldn't remember where the money went. Now, he's placing $20,000 directly into the hands of the man who carried out the kidnapping. And that single statement does more than contradict him. It connects him, establishes the financial link between planner and accomplice, in his own words. And once that crack appears, it spreads fast. With total denial no longer possible, he pivots again, shifting blame. Admits the connection to Marcus, but insists the crime was never his idea. Claims Marcus acted alone, desperate, unstable, piecing together a plan from overheard family conversations. Suggests the messages were sent without his knowledge, somehow fabricated. A special agent Russell Dante doesn't interrupt. He lets the story unfold. Nods. Takes notes. Gives just enough silence, just enough belief, for the son-in-law to keep talking and walk himself even deeper into the truth. Then, with perfect timing, Special Agent Russell Dante dismantles it all with a single line. "We have Marcus in the next room, and he's telling a very different story." The effect is immediate. The color drains from the son-in-law's face, again. According to Marcus, it wasn't desperation, it was direction. He says the son-in-law approached him with a plan, laid out every detail. The timeline, the entry point, the exact window when Nancy Guthrie would be most vulnerable. He claims he was offered $50,000 to carry it out, to take her, hold her, and wait, whether for ransom or until her condition deteriorated without medication. And the details don't stop there. Marcus is giving specifics: the restaurant where they met, the parking lot where cash was exchanged, the layout of Nancy's home, even her medication routine. Information so precise, so personal, it couldn't have come from casual conversation. Only from someone who knew and planned. Here's the part most people get wrong. They assume loyalty. That accomplices will stay silent, protect each other, carry the burden together. But once federal charges enter the picture, that loyalty disappears fast. Faced with decades in federal prison, Marcus chose survival. He talked, and everything began to collapse. Because it wasn't just his word. Surveillance footage from a restaurant places both men together multiple times in the weeks before Nancy vanished. Quiet meetings, out of place, now impossible to ignore. And with every new piece of evidence, the story the son-in-law tried to build falls apart completely. Witnesses place them together, recalling fragments of conversation, talk of a job, and handling a problem. Financial records reveal promises of even more money beyond the $30,000 already traced. Completely cornered, the son-in-law makes one last move, a partial confession. He claims it was all hypothetical, that he may have mentioned Nancy Guthrie's routine, but never actually ordered anything to happen. Special Agent Russell Dante doesn't argue. He simply points back to the 2:47 a.m. call. Because a man caught off guard doesn't receive late-night calls discussing a victim's condition, doesn't strategize after a failed ransom, doesn't ask what to do next when time is running out. In that moment, it hits him. There's no version of this story where he walks free. Every lie documented. Every shift exposed. And while he sits there unraveling, Marcus is down the hall filling in the rest. 6 hours. That's all it took for everything to fall apart. The most chilling part of this interrogation isn't the evidence. Not the searches, not the calls, not even the messages. It's what's missing. Across 6 hours, with countless chances, the son-in-law never once shows real concern for Nancy Guthrie. Not once. Every tear is for himself. Every crack in his voice is about his future, his consequences, his life falling apart. The 84-year-old woman who carried photos of her grandchildren, who laughed at dinner just hours before she vanished, to him, she was never more than a solution. A number. A way out. And what Marcus later revealed about the first 48 hours after she was taken was so disturbing, even seasoned investigators struggled to process it. But because now, only one question remains, the one everyone in that building couldn't escape. Was Nancy still alive when they finally found her?